From snapping the golf club to the aggressive swinging that earned the golfer a disqualification, these are the most outrageous moments in golf history. Number 10. The Nonchalant Walk-Off. You could be having a bad day, but not like John Daly at the 2015 PGA Championship. At the par 3 7th hole, the golfer needed 3 good shots, but they all ended up becoming the worst shots of his career. One by one, all the balls went straight into the water. But the man had a unique way to show his frustration. He picked up his golf club and threw it into Lake Michigan right after the balls. If that's where the shots went, might as well just throw the swing there too. But it is what happened later that ticked off the media. After throwing his club, he lit up a cigarette, walked back to his cart, and drove off like nothing wild had happened a few moments ago. It might seem somewhat normal to act this way, but no explanation can defend this next golfer and his random outburst. Number 9. The Shocking Outburst. Zach Johnson is usually a pretty calm-minded guy, but a new side of him popped up right in the middle of the Waste Management Phoenix Open. The crowd there is known to heckle players, especially at the par 3 16th hole. Just like with any other player, the crowd was ready to heckle Johnson too. Little did they know, it would end up costing them big time. Johnson was already struggling with his game. So, when the crowd started making unnecessarily loud noise, he was pushed to his edge. He went to the crowd and shouted loudly at one big mouth, "Just shut up!"
Just shut up!
The crowd went silent, but only for a minute. Others started booing him, while a few of them were just laughing in his face. Experts weren't too pleased with the outburst either. It wasn't very sportsmanlike to get bothered by the crowd. It didn't help him much either. An embarrassing finish and an outrageous outburst later, the golfer ended up tied at 60th in the tournament. This sounded strange? Check out the next one. Number 8. The most bizarre fan moment. At the 2021 Scottish Open, Rory McIlroy was preparing himself for his next big shot. His caddy and John Rahm were standing close, discussing McIlroy's tactics. But their game plan was cut short when a strange guy popped up beside them. He casually picked out a driver from his bag and an iron, like they all belonged to him. Then he walked over to the tee as the 3 men just followed him with their eyes, frozen in disbelief. The fan then started practicing his swings, completely unbothered by every other person in that tee box. Security eventually decided to step in and take control of the situation, but this random outburst from a stranger left everyone confused and sort of amused too. The next moment is somewhat similar, but nothing you could have predicted on the field. Number 7. That's one way to do it. Who's the most hot-tempered golfer on the field? I bet you don't know about Thomas Pieters at the 2018 BMW PGA Championship. It was the second round, and the golfer was already 5 over par, trailing behind other players. The frustration of the game was slowly building up on him. So, when another bad shot piled up on his scorecard, he lost it. The ball hadn't even landed properly, and the golfer picked up his club, lifted it behind its neck, and snapped it like a small twig. It was like a WWE wrestler had come in to play golf. The crowd was stunned in silence, and the commentators didn't even know what to say. The animated break left everyone confused, except Pieters, who moved on to play the game like nothing happened. This may have been shocking, but it didn't bring the attention that this next meltdown brought on the golfer. Number 6. The Silly Kick. At the 2012 Masters Tournament, Tiger Woods was all set to show why he was the boss of the game. But the second round came like a hurricane on the field. Woods was on the par 3 16th hole when he hit a bizarre tee shot. He knew he had messed up and immediately took out his anger on his golf club. He dropped the club and kicked it towards his bag. This reaction got a lot of hate and criticism from the media. They made it a goal to pin him down for being unethical on the field. Later, Woods apologized, and the whole thing was swept under the rug. Do you have any crazy golf outburst stories too? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Number 5. Down the drain. Rory McIlroy is not one to lose his temper on the field, but the 2015 Cadillac Championship brought out the worst in him. He was struggling quite early on in the game. By the time he reached the 8th hole, par 5, he knew he had to recover. But fate wasn't quite by his side. The ball went high up in the air and landed in the water. The crowd gasped in response. But the golfer had a different idea of reacting to his shot. He picked up his club and threw it straight into the water. It wasn't a small throw either. The man was so frustrated that the club ended up crossing half the lake in the distance. Even McIlroy's team was in shock. But it wasn't as big of a shocker as the outburst of the next golfer. Number 4. I'm done. The US Open is known to test the patience of the golfers. In 2020, it wasn't any different. Danny Lee was on the final hole, staring at a 4-foot putter in front of him. For professionals, hitting that sort of putt is no big deal. But somehow, it turned into one of the most chaotic moments for Lee. He kept missing the hole. It wasn't until 6 putts later that the ball finally decided to drop into the hole, turning a par into a quadruple bogey. The frustration was visible on Lee's face. He made his way towards his bag and slammed his putter a few times on it until it finally bent. The drama wasn't over yet, though. The golfer walked off angrily and withdrew from the tournament. The crowd was shocked, to say the least, for it was one of the most dramatic meltdowns they had seen in golf. The next golfer stunned the people on the field, too. Number 3. The animated frustration. Billy Horschel was at the 2015 US Open when he was struggling with the horrifying conditions of the greens. But unlike the other players, he chose to speak about it in an almost funny way. He was on the final round and at the 6th green with a short putt in front of him. When he missed the putt on his first try, he was clearly frustrated. After hitting the ball into the hole, he slammed his club repeatedly over the hole, a few inches away from the surface of the greens. Then, he went on to speak animatedly on the field to show how pissed off he was about the bouncy greens. The next emotional outburst is right up with this one. Number 2. The surprising collapse. At the 2005 Nashua Masters, Henny Otto was on the 12th green when things started to become a bit chaotic. He was facing a putt for birdie. So, he made his move, only to miss and leave a short putt for par, staring back at him. So, he hit, but missed. Then, he missed again, and again. It took him 6 putts to eventually get that ball down the hole. At one point, he even swung his golf club to show his frustration. But you can't really blame him when he ended up with a quadruple bogey 9 on a hole. That's rough for a pro golfer. Now, this wasn't offensive to people, but the next golfer definitely made the officials angry. Number 1. The quick disqualification. Sergio Garcia was at the 2019 Saudi International when he had a big collapse on the field. He was playing the par 5 4th hole in his 3rd round. He approached the shot, only for the ball to land in a bunker. Things hadn't gone out of control yet. But he failed to get the ball out of the sand on the first try. That's when he started swinging aggressively inside the bunker, forcing people to call him out of his behavior. He ended up damaging the bunker and left the crowd muttering in disbelief. But what the golfer didn't know was that it came with a big price. Garcia was handed a disqualification for his unethical attitude on the field. If you enjoyed these outrageous moments, you'll love this video too. Click here.